difficult is Spanish. So this is probably a fairly straightforward question. This video is less me answering the question because it'd be a very short and obvious video, more me kind of explaining why and giving you a bit of an idea of how Spanish works as a language. So Spanish, a good language for beginners. Is it difficult? No. It's not difficult at all, but I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So, Spanish is the fourth most spoken language in the world with over 548 million speakers. So, it's behind English, Mandarin, and Hindi as far as how many people speak it. So, yeah, it's one of the most learnt languages by students as well. It's an Indo-European language, so it's part of the biggest language family of the Romance branch. So, it has a lot in common with languages like Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, French. I don't know why I didn't say that first, sorry. It has a lot in common with those languages, and obviously, as a Romance language, it's descended from Vulgar Latin, so that was spoken through the Roman Empire, by the way. So, it is quite simple and easy for an English speaker to learn, even though English isn't a Romance language. I've talked about that in past videos, but yeah, Romance languages are generally not too difficult for English speakers to learn. Of the Romance languages, Spanish is basically the easiest, and then French is actually a little bit harder than a few of the others, and Romanian is generally considered to be the hardest of the main 5 Romance languages that I've just listed. But yeah, moving on, Spanish is generally considered to be one of the easiest languages for English speakers to learn because it has simple grammar, lexical similarity. I've talked about that before as well, but what lexical similarity is basically how similar words are in a language. So it obviously doesn't have like 90% similar words, but there's a lot of cognates, which means words that are similar enough you can kind of just pick them out and know what they are. We'll get into that in the next few slides, but yeah, it has easy pronunciation as well. There is obviously, you need to learn the pronunciation, but you don't even really need to learn it, like you just kind of figure it out from talking it. I don't speak Spanish, but I do know basic Spanish. I can actually read Spanish texts that are not too difficult because I know Italian, so I can read them and tell you exactly what it says just based on my knowledge. So it is a pretty easy language, and overall it's quite similar. I've got Indo-European language with a is that called an asterisk? I don't know, someone tell me, because English is also an Indo-European language. Obviously there is a catch with that, because although I've said Spanish is similar to English because it's Indo-European, that doesn't mean every Indo-European language is similar to English, because you've obviously got the Indo-Aryan branch, which is like Hindi and stuff, which is not similar at all to English, and you got the Indo-Iranian branch, which has like, what's it called? Persian, sorry, mind blank for a second. It's got like the Persian and its dialects, so Dari, Farsi, Tajik, all that stuff, which is not similar to English. So yeah, just thought I'd put that asterisk there to explain. But overall, Spanish is not that hard, not that different from English, if you kind of get what I mean. That I probably explained that last bit badly. Moving on, Spanish is officially spoken in 21 countries, including Spain, obviously, Mexico, which you probably assumed. I've heard people call it Mexican as a language, so I'm assuming people know it's spoken there, and Venezuela as well. Generally, it's spoken throughout some countries in Europe. I think, no, San Marino speaks Italian. Sorry, don't mind me. There's definitely other places in Europe, I think, that speak Spanish, and it's spoken throughout South America, parts of North America. I believe Americans learn it in school. If you're watching this as an English speaker, you're probably from America, so you'll know if that's right or wrong. And yeah, I believe it's spoken in Africa as well. There is an island in... Oh, I just did a video on this. There's an island in Oceania. I think it's Guam, and maybe Micronesia as well, that speaks Spanish. So yeah, it's all over the world. It's a popular language. Why is Spanish easy, though? So in every language difficulty ratings, whatever it is, Spanish is always considered to be category 1. So one of the easiest, one of the quickest to learn. They're very much have a lot in common, how easy and how long it takes to learn something. And this is for a few reasons. So Spanish is a Romance language, which makes it really easy to learn. I've already gone through that. It uses the same alphabet. Most people only know languages from the sound. They haven't actually looked at how it looks. But yeah, it has the same alphabet as English. The only letter that you could argue it has in addition is the N with the... Oh, what's it called? Is it a Unicron? Oh, that's probably not right. It's an N with an eyebrow on it, and it makes a N sound. So, like in Espanol, the N has that over it, so it makes a N. If you've done Italian and you know the GN sound, it's kind of a little bit like that. It's like a N sound. So, like when you have, what's a word that has a GN in it in Italian? I can't think under pressure. I'm very sorry. Moving on, it makes that sound. I don't know why. Also, I've put a bracket in front of arguably, and it doesn't end, so I guess the rest of this is just in brackets until I make another video and close the bracket, so sorry about that. Spanish and English share many cognates. What a cognate is words that they don't necessarily have to be identical, but sometimes they are, but they're similar enough that you know what they are. So an example in Spanish would be, I'm not 100% sure on this, but if you take the Spanish word for alcohol, it's either alcohol, exactly the same, or alcohol, like in Italian. It's similar enough that you can look at that, particularly in the context of a sentence which you already know some of the words and go, okay, that's pretty obviously that. So it has a lot of those. They're basically free wins because you don't even have to look them up probably 80% of the time. You just look at that in the sentence and go, okay, I'll learn a new word because it's very obvious what that means. So yeah, they have a lot of that. It's a free win. It's good. Spanish punctuation, pluralization, and sentence structure are similar enough to English. They're pretty easy to understand. Word order is basically the same, and pluralization is easy enough to understand. I think you just chuck an S on the end most of the time. It's easier than Italian, and Italian's is fairly easy as far as it goes. Just a little bit different. But yeah, that's not too difficult. The only potentially tricky things, and I say potentially tricky, they're not. I just had to pick something to talk about. Verb conjugations, they're not hard. You can learn them. They're only, I guess, slightly harder than English present tense verb conjugation, which we don't even really have to do that much. And they have grammatical gender. Boo-hoo. That's not hard. That's literally the hardest things I could think of. I cannot think of anything else apart from potentially, I don't know if I've mentioned dialects. Like, I guess there's Mexican Spanish and Spanish from Spain, and they're pronounced a little bit differently and maybe have a few changes. If that's the worst of a language, that's a pretty good rap. Like, I'm struggling to think of difficult things apart from the fact that a language is a language and it's going to have some time commitment. But I can't think of anything. Wait till you see my Arabic video. I think I went over like multiple pages talking about what's hard. So yeah, Spanish is nothing. Like, if you want an easy language, go for it. So should you learn Spanish? Yeah, I think you should, especially if you're a beginner, as it's one of, I've left an apostrophe of the it's, that's really bothering me. Sorry, I just noticed that straight away. As it's one of the most spoken and culturally significant languages, it's extremely beneficial to know, especially if you just want to know a language. With that, yeah, it'll benefit you. So it can aid in travel because so many countries speak it, particularly countries you'd want to go to, not to trash some countries of the world. We're not going to name names, but as some of them you wouldn't want to go to, North Korea. But like, as far as nice countries, Spain, I haven't been there. I'm sure it's a lovely place to go, and there's obviously plenty of other nice countries that you can go to as well. Kind of cool countries where they speak Spanish. I'm sure Spain is on everyone's dream travel list if they could go everywhere they want, or pick 10 countries or whatever. Yeah, and it's incredibly easy to learn. So if you literally just want to learn a language, hypothetically, Spanish is a good place to start. Like, obviously you can learn with anything, but Spanish is an excellent language to start with because it's so easy and it's rewarding. So, for example, harder languages are probably more rewarding to learn, but they take longer. So if you need kind of that, it sounds bad, but like kind of that easy win of going, oh, I did a language that isn't too hard and I get the reward for it. That might be good for your first time learning a language because you kind of need that reassurance that, yeah, I'm going in the right direction. Whereas if you do Arabic for the first time, it might take you ages to get that first hit of dopamine because you actually like do something good and then you get put off and quit. So I don't know if there's a statistic on this, but I presume that first-time language learners who pick Spanish over something like Russian are probably more successful. You know what, I'm just going to cite myself on that. That's probably true. So, yeah, I would recommend learning Spanish as a first language, and full stop, I'm going to learn it after I finish learning Russian. Properly learn it. I know I've taught myself some basics, but that's just kind of on the back burner. So, yeah, and there's really no reason why you couldn't learn it within 18 months, probably without a strict, like, classroom teaching I'm talking. Yeah, there's not that much to it. It's a flex. It's a bridge to learning other languages, as is all languages. And yeah, it's cool. You should learn it. So, interesting facts as well. It's a phonetic language, so that means that's a good thing as well. It's another easy thing. I'm just racking up all the easy things for you. If you can read the words, you can pronounce them. It's not like, for example, English. We have silly pronunciation. We have like, you can read, I'm trying to think of a word. You have like, I can't think under pressure. I'm so sorry. But there are words that are like spelt the same, but maybe like the first letter is different, two different words, and you pronounce them differently. And it's like, well, shouldn't you just change the first sound? And that's not how it works. So English is just very difficult for learners because the pronunciation can sometimes be hard to discern. Whereas with Spanish, if you can read it, you can know it. This is also called shallow orthographic depth. Orthographic depth is how easily you can discern pronunciation based on reading something. So something like Scottish Gaelic, for example, or French can be difficult. Same with Russian as well, as pronunciation can be hard to discern how to pronounce something based on reading it. But yeah, It's not too difficult. So that's basically all you need to know as far as Spanish goes. Sentences translated from English to Spanish get 15 to 25% longer when they're in Spanish because it's more detailed. I think that's pretty interesting. That's probably not something you knew. Spanish vocab is influenced by Arabic origin. A lot of languages are, but I think Spanish in particular is. I'm not 100% sure why. I just read that quickly while I was researching this video, so I was like, yeah, chuck it in. That letter is the only Spanish letter of Spanish origins. Everything else is from the Latin alphabet, which is the same one we use, and obviously it's hugely influential. They didn't invent it in Spain, sorry. And Spanish is not the only language spoken in Spain. They've got Galician, Basque, and Catalan. I believe Catalan is also a Romance language. The other two probably are as well. I'm not sure. Don't wreck me if they're not, because I didn't say they were. Catalan is, though. I'm almost certain of that. And there's more Spanish speakers in Mexico than Spain. This is not an uncommon thing, actually. If you look at English, there's more English speakers in the US and probably India as well than the UK. There's more Portuguese speakers in Brazil. Can't think of any other countries where that kind of pattern happens. But yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes their country that it's named after doesn't have as many speakers as another big country, and that's usually due to colonization, and then the country they colonize, like, the population booms. So yeah, that's interesting, and it also leads to a lot of people thinking Mexicans speak Mexican and people in Spain speak Mexican, which I think is funny because they're stupid. So yeah, that's basically as far as that goes. Interesting facts. Just to close, Spanish is a beautiful language. It really is beautiful, and it's easy, and it's spoken in many countries around the world, and given how popular and easy it is, and just how cool it is to know this and know a language full stop, it's an excellent second language for beginners, so I would recommend you learn it. If you are looking to learn a language, there's a link in the description to my website, Head of State Language Learning. It's completely free, and it will help you learn basically any language. You can find your language on there and go through, try all of the links in order. So it's got a bunch of resources listed in the order I think you should learn them. You just click the links and you go through and learn everything in order, and you've learnt the language basically. It's completely free. There's no sign up. It's currently under maintenance. I'm still working on it. So it just depends on, I guess, what you're using. It might not be completely operational. You might click on a language and it's not fully built and you can't use it. That's okay. I'll have it up and running soon, really quickly. But if you wanted to have a look at it, and just have a look at the main page, it's pretty cool. I'd recommend you do that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. If you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that to the moon, because it makes me feel better about how much time I'm investing in this for free. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something, and you should definitely consider learning Spanish. Thank you.